Good morning, Unity and Marin.
Good morning.
It must be Choir Sunday because there's all these people behind me. At a time in the world when there is a lot of hatred over people and who they are and what religion they are, we just want to acknowledge the fact that apart from Christmas, there's another holiday that is going on. It's Hanukkah, and so in honor of our Jewish brothers and sisters, we're going to precede the service with a song called Hine Matov. And the full words of the song mean how pleasant it is, how good and pleasant it is for brothers or sisters to dwell in unity. And we're going to attempt to have half of you sing, and then half of you come in afterwards, and we're going to see how it runs. And the words are Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achiot Gam Yachad. You did good for a first time round. Okay. We're singing Joy to the World. See how we just change it up here? And if you feel so joyful as to stand, feel free to do that. And the words will come up here.
is trimmed, the lights are up, and in the spirit of ornaments, I have to say this. My name is Lisa Starbird, and I'm happy to be leading you through this Sunday service today. So as a community, Unity in Marin consciously came up with our vision statement. Please join me in saying this. We are a spiritual community committed to authenticity and the expression of love and support for each other in living an awakened, enlightened life. And next, we would like you to join us in singing our Advent song.
At this time, the prayer chaplain, Jess Batha, will come up and bring the prayer box. In this box are our prayers, and we hold these in prayer consciousness and then send them to Silent Unity to be held in prayer. I noticed that when I was lighting the Advent candles, the first one, which represents hope and faith, and the second one, which represents peace. You know, I was trying to light the joy candle. And the joy candle went out. And I wondered about the metaphysical meaning of that. Let's see. Wonder if we can get a little joy lit here. I have the matches here. Here we go. We have a torch. Let's see if we can get this going. Everyone hold together that joy can be lit in our world today. That is interesting. I think that's very symbolic. It is in us. It is in us. And sometimes it's difficult to get that light going, you know? Last night, the longest night of the year in terms of darkness, was also the national memorial for those who have died that are homeless. 13,000 homeless die each year. Some reports, and I'm trying to check the accuracy of this, but some reports say that the average age of the homeless, some reports say, what would you guess? 35? 9. Some reports say 9 years old is the average age of the homeless. Now, in trying to check the statistics, what I have been able to determine, and I'm really trying to dig into the statistical literature, which takes time, but there are 40% of the homeless that are under the age of 18. Thank you, we got it lit. And the average life expectancy, I've seen 2 reports. One said 47 years old and one said 50 years old of those who are homeless. I'm just thinking about some of the things going on in our world. And when we look at our scripture today, it is about joy. Rejoice. I'm like, how's that work? How we have joy and rejoice when there are things that are happening that are very difficult for us to understand. But what I know, just as we did get that joy candle lit, is that joy is our true nature. Our true nature is bliss, because our true nature is God. So I invite you to take a deep breath and relax right where you are. If you wish, close your eyes or maybe relax your gaze. Whatever is comfortable for you as we move into this presence. There actually is never any absence of this presence anywhere in our lives or in the world. This presence is the true reality. This presence is love. This presence is creativity. This presence is intelligence. This presence is life. This presence is God. This presence is you. There is truly only one power and one presence active as our lives and as the universe. God, the good omnipotence. Right where you are, God is. There is only one presence. Breathe into that. Feel this divine presence flowing in, through, and as us. In this presence, we live, move, and have our being. In this presence, we express the Christ, the divine, the I am presence. And in this presence, we lift up our hearts. We may have issues, needs, things that are going on in our lives. But in this presence, we know all is whole, all is well, all is peace. And it is in this context that we can believe in joy to the world. Spirit, we lift up our world. We lift up our environment. We lift up the homeless. We lift up our children and our youth. We lift up all of our world, knowing we are here to bring the light of joy. And wherever we are, whether we're love streaming around the world or physically here, we know this presence touches each and every heart. Joy to the world. And so it is. Amen.
My greatest joy is discovering the presence of God within me. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore wrote that joy is the happiness of God expressed through humankind. Witnessing the unbridled joy of children on Christmas morning brings a smile to my face, gives me a warm feeling. And although my childhood may be a distant memory, joy remains an active part of my life. I find joy in the beauty of holiday decorations, in the fellowship of family and friends, and in giving and receiving gifts. I discover that my greatest joy is knowing and feeling the presence of God. I recognize and rejoice in God's presence and see it in everyone I meet. I know that joy is always present and can be called into expression at every moment. And from the book of Galatians, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, and faithfulness. In the silence. back into the room as we sing.
This next song that the choir is going to sing, at some point, everyone's singing something different. That's the way it's supposed to be. It's a beautiful piece, and it's called Christmas Lullaby.
Together now.
welcome. I'm Reverend Tim Lytle, Senior Minister here. And so if this is your first time here, I want to especially welcome you to this very special sacred community. There's another slide that shows our text number. So if we can show that slide. And if you're new here, you can go to that number and text the word welcome. Or if you've been here a while, text the word loop. That's a way for us to stay in connection by way of text and email, and I can give you updates on things. So if this is your first time here, would you please raise your hand, or first time since I became the senior minister? Okay, right here and over here. Okay, so there's a number of people. First time here, or first time since I became the senior minister. Also in the back, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Okay, and over here, anyone else? We want to make sure we get to everybody. And we want to welcome all of our wonderful love streamers. Thank you, love streamers, for being with us. If we could look at this side camera and wave at our love streamers from around the world, those in Hawaii, I give you a shaka, mele kalikimaka. And I know that we have people who watch us from France and Nigeria and Hawaii and Congo, Taiwan, various places around the world. So we welcome you wherever you are, God is. And we know that we are one family, one ohana. Wherever you are, the presence of God is. And so we know that we are one. We are all one together and interconnected. And so in that spirit, we welcome you. Welcome home.
Thank you so much, Reverend Tim. And for those of you who may not know, my name is actually Lisa Starbird. And not everybody got to see that from behind the choir, so those were my ornaments for the holiday. So I'm going to highlight just a few offerings that are coming up in this next couple of weeks. It's a very busy time here, and it's a really special and magical time as well. So this week there will be no Wednesday service because it's Christmas, right? But we will on Christmas Eve, on this Tuesday, we're going to have two special services, or candle lighting services, one at 5 and one at 7. The sanctuary fills up, so you really want to be here to get your seat if you've got big families or anything like that. But it's a really wonderful night. The choir sings, Deborah Winter sings, and you just want to be sure to be here Tuesday. And the next slide, please. If you bring a friend to Christmas Eve service, you will receive a special gift. And I don't even know what it is. So bring a friend to Christmas Eve service. Sunday, December 29th, Reverend Medora Gordon and Cindy Acker, our choir director, will be presenting a very special Kwanzaa service. That day is in Kwanzaa. It's about cooperative economics. And so there's an opportunity for everyone to participate in that if you bring soul food, some food to share. So that's going to be a wonderful service as well on the 29th. Now, where will you be on Christmas Eve? What are we going to be doing? That's right. For those of you who don't know, this has been a wonderful tradition here at Unity. Last year we had 160 drummers in this sanctuary. We brought earplugs. But what we do is from 7:30 to 9:30, we're here. It's all are welcome. It's families, it's young, it's old, it's everyone alike. Movement, drumming. And what we get to do is we get to drum out the old year, and we get to drum in the new year with intention. And doing that in community is such a very special thing. And we also we count down at 9 o'clock with New York. And we have a champagne toast and some snacks as well. So please, please be here in community. And then you can either go home and go to bed, or you can go out and party someplace else afterwards. But be here because it's just a really magnificent time. And we've got Connect up in the tech booth. He's our drummer. He's leading the drumming circle for this, and I will be there. The two of us will be supporting the whole circle. So be there. January 5th is our first Sunday, and the first Sunday of each year, we have our Burning Bowl service. This year, it's in the spirit of aloha. So we invite you to wear your Hawaiian vest or Hawaiian shirts or leis, whatever you want, and come and join us in the spirit of letting go. That's a all wonderful, wonderful time, too, to be here. So now, if you'll stand and as you are able, and we'll be singing our statement of truth.
You've heard this one before, and I think you really are going to enjoy it. It is a Quincy Jones version of Handel's Messiah called Hallelujah, a Soulful Celebration.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you, choir, and thank you, Cindy. It's so good to have you all here. I'd like for us to look at a passage of Scripture from the Christmas story as it's told in the Gospel of Luke. There's two Gospels that talk about the Christmas story. One is Matthew and one is Luke. And this comes from Luke chapter 2. Nearby in the fields outside of Bethlehem, a group of shepherds were guarding their flocks from predators in the darkness of night. Now, first of all, I want to point out that this is a recurring theme in Christmas stories and in the whole philosophy of Christmas season. We're in the darkest time of the year, and there's this symbolism of being in the darkness, of being in a time of ignorance, a time of dissension, a time of quarrel. That was the time in which Jesus was born. Jesus was born into a time when there were people who thought that whatever they said should happen, that they should rule over everybody and everyone should bow down to them. And Jesus was born into this time where there were many people who were poor and disadvantaged, and the family of Jesus was one of those. The family of Jesus his mother was probably a teenager, and he was born because there wasn't room in the hotel and the inn. He was born evidently in a place where the animals were kept, because he was placed eventually in a feeding trough, in a manger. But let's look at this. So they were in the darkness of night. Suddenly, a messenger of the Lord stood in front of them, and the darkness was replaced by a glorious light, the shining light of God's glory. They were terrified. Now, I used to wonder, why were they terrified? I mean, isn't it good to have light? But if you're startled, have you ever been in a deep sleep and someone turned on a bright light? It can be startling. It can be scary. And they were startled, and they were startled by this being of light in front of them. The messenger, this angel, said, "Don't be afraid. Listen, I bring good news, news of great joy." Now, this messenger, angel, was talking to them about great joy. They were an occupied country. The Romans had occupied their country, and they were shepherds. They weren't very well to do, and yet somehow they were being told to have news that will affect all people everywhere. Today in the city of David, a liberator has been born for you. He is the promised anointed one, the supreme authority. You will know you have found him when you see a baby wrapped in a blanket, lying in a feeding trough or a manger. Some people aren't real familiar. You know, when you've seen the pictures of the baby Jesus, typically there's like a wooden crib-like thing. That was a feeding trough. That's a manger. It wasn't created to hold babies. It was made to put food in for animals to eat. Boy, it can change anything. So we may look at ourselves like that manger, like something very common, and yet within each one of us is the Christ, the I am presence. I want to say just a little bit about this passage. As I started out with my prayer, I was talking about the homelessness situation. The state of California, in the last statistics I saw, the state of California has 12% and 20 double million people born. This is how this amazing birth of Jesus took place. I think about how in each one of our lives there may be darkness at times because of grief or because of things that are going on in our world. And yet there is within us this Christ presence, the I am presence, like this candle, that is waiting to be lit and waiting to come forth and to come out. And please come to the Christmas Eve service this Tuesday night, either 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, as we look at how to light that light, how to bring forth that light into our world. So, Jesus was born into this time where he looked very vulnerable, very defenseless. There were very powerful and dark circumstances that were going on in his time. Does it sometimes seem like there's some darkness in our time? Do you see some darkness at times? Darkness of hate, darkness of prejudice, darkness of economic injustice, darkness of all kinds, the homelessness situation. And sometimes you can get a little bogged down in it. And we may wonder, well, what can I do? Now, just because Time Life or Time Magazine picks a person of the year, they put some research into it and so forth, and some people agree, some people disagree. I personally was thrilled to see that Greta Thunberg from Sweden was picked as the person of the year by Time Magazine. And, I was watching Greta. I've watched her in numerous speeches. I watched her very recently as she was addressing the European Union. And from what I understand, she has Asperger's. If you know about Asperger's, it's kind of on the autism spectrum. And so as they were bringing her in, huge crowd of adults. And you see this, even though she's 16, she's kind of small. And you see this very meek-looking 16-year-old, with long braids, being escorted in. And she's dressed in like a flannel shirt. They're all like in suits and stuff. She's in a flannel shirt with these braids. And you wonder, what could a 16-year-old with Asperger's do to bring light to the world? And as I see that every one of us has light if we will but let it shine. Of course, Greta is speaking to the challenges in our time of climate change. And she said very clearly to the European Union, she said, "Hello, my name is Greta Thunberg. I am 16, and I want you to panic." She's been told by people not to use that terminology, that it's difficult to really bring about progress through panic. But she said, I understand that, but if your house is on fire, some degree of panic might be called for, might be useful to motivate you to action. Now, regardless of how you think about that, to think about a 16-year-old with Asperger's who can speak with such clarity, I think about how each one of us in our world can be this light. There may be some mornings where it might be hard to get your light lit. But we are, in fact, here to bring light to the world. Friday night, we had a big gathering here from it's near-death experience. And so Dr. Ellie Schomburg and myself were presenting. And We were sharing similar experiences, although I had had those experiences without dying. She had had those experiences as a result of dying. And we were talking about this light, this sense of unity, this sense of oneness, this sense of connection with all things, this experience of this presence of love and light, and that this presence is living in each person, and how that sometimes makes us feel a little different than the rest of the world, especially a world that emphasizes separation and difference. Ellie was talking about how she, at a very young age, in an abusive home, had prayed and prayed to God to make things right. And things had not been made right. And so she had made a decision, there is no such thing as God. And I've heard of others who've made that kind of decision. How do we hold on to the idea of God? How do we hold on to the idea of joy in the midst of some of the things we see happening in our world? Recently, in the area, I saw what looked like a teenager who was homeless. I thought of my brief stint as a seminary student living in a car. I think about the lack of medical attention and the lack of companionship and the lack of food. Many people live like that every day. How do we hold joy in the midst of that? Now, Jesus came 2,000 years ago to bring joy. Where is the joy? The joy is inside of us. And I want to thank the person who bought handkerchiefs for me. The joy is inside of us because the presence of God is inside of us. Do you know who you are? Do you know? Have you forgotten that you are the presence of God? That you are the love, the light, the creativity, the beauty, the imagination, the presence that is God? Did you know you are the self-livingness of that? When you know that anything is possible. When you know that, you give birth to the Christ again. You give birth to the I am presence. You give birth to this presence which has come to bring joy to the world. But if we sit back and wait for someone else to do it, we are robbing ourselves of the opportunity to bring forth the light that is the Christ. You are it. You're the one. You may be waiting for someone else to do it. And certainly we are thrilled when we see a 16-year-old step up into that light. But each and every one of you are the light. If we knew the true story of each and every one of you, we would see a hero. We would see a person who has come through many difficult circumstances. Some of you through depression and anxiety. Some of you through homelessness. Some of you through the loss of someone close to you. Some of you with great physical challenges. Some of you with, I don't know. Every single person here is a hero, regardless of your age. At 7 years old, I started having anxiety about life and started questioning life. We can't just judge it by age. Every single one of you is a hero. And what has kept each and every one of us going is that I am presence, the presence of God living itself as us. That is what has kept us going. That is the light that wants to come out. That is the birth of the Christ that wants to happen in our day. And Herod, King Herod, represents that presence of the adverse ego. King Herod, when the Magi, the wise ones, came to him, King Herod said, "Oh, tell me where this new king is born. I want to go and worship him too." But his plan was to destroy the child. And he was furious when the Magi did not return, and he sent soldiers to kill all the male children around that age. Herod represents that adverse ego that says, don't you dare bring forth that birth of the Christ. Don't you dare bring forth your greatness. Don't you dare bring forth your God self. I want you to be subdued. I want you to remain in the shadows. I want you to blend into the woodwork. That's Herod consciousness. Christ consciousness is like, rise up. Let your light so shine. Christ consciousness is like, it doesn't matter how dark it is out here. We are shining a light, and we will step into what is ours to do. If a 16-year-old with Asperger's can do it, so can we. And some of you are saying, but I'm retired. I'm ready for someone else to do it. But it's time to be refired. Go from retirement to refirement. You have a lot of wisdom to share. You have a lot of experience to share. We need you. Don't you dare stay in the shadows. Don't hide your wisdom. Don't hide your gifts. Don't hide behind the illusion of age. I've had people that were, I don't keep track of age, but I had some people that were 10 years, I was born 10 years before them. I happen to know that. And they said to me, well, when you get to be our age, you won't be able to do this and do that, and you would have to cut down in terms of your time in ministry, and you wouldn't be able to hike, and you wouldn't be able to do this and do that. I said, no, I don't know that. Don't give in to Herod. Don't give in to the consciousness that is telling you to hide, that is telling you to keep that Christ presence wrapped up. You know, when you have a present, it's only as good as opening it. Open your Christ presents. Open it up. Let the light shine. Come on. I mean, I'm going to do this. I'm going to declare that this is the spiritual center of the universe right here, and that our collective light will shake up not only California, but our country and our world. Let's shake it up. Thank you. This is fun. I could go longer, but we have another service. So come Christmas Eve. Come Christmas Eve, because I'll be talking more about lighting that light and using the 12 powers to bring forth, give birth to the Christ. And it'll be a kind of a subdued environment when we come in here Christmas Eve. All of the sanctuary lights off. There will be enough ambient lighting for you to find your way. But it'll be a glorious time of us gathering together, and then with our candles that are lit, going out, symbolizing taking our light out into the world. That is what we are here to do. Bring your light. So please repeat after me for our affirmation. I am the light of the world. I'm turned on. I'm shining it. Herod's not shutting me down. I'm bringing birth to the Christ as me. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. And so I believe Robert is doing the testimonial first, and then Al is going to share with us a little bit about faith in action. Thank you, Robert.
Oh my, this is so wonderful. I feel so bathed by loving light this morning. I'm so in love with all of you. So a lot of you know a little bit about my story. My wife passed about 11 years ago, and I looked for a community, and when I came to Unity, I fell in your arms. I just really fell, not simply in love, but the presence of love just engulfed me. And since then, I've been involved with feeling this love every time I show up, every time I think of all of us. Been involved with lots of volunteer opportunities and feel so blessed. So what I'd like to do is share 4 reasons why I am grateful for being here and why I pledge in faith in action. And the first one is the programs and services. Like this morning, just being bathed and being touched with the intimacy of love and meaning. That's the first. The second is the leadership wisdom that's here. It's extraordinary. This is an extraordinary community. We have over 100, maybe over 150 volunteers or regular volunteers. If you've ever volunteered, raise your hand. Please raise your hand and look around. This is an extraordinary community because we are involved. and we are in love. The third is our mission and our purpose here. It's a personal purpose and mission. It's a community mission. It's a national and global mission. As Reverend Tim said, we bring light into the world, and we're involved in the great transformation that's happening today, that's been happening and will be happening over the next 20 to 30 years. Our involvement in that is imperative. Yeah. The fourth reason is you, right? We're here because of this community. This is a community of presence. We bring divine presence into action. We bring the light of the world into the world here, and we practice that. So in closing, I'm really asking each of you to make a pledge this year. If we are a community of presence, of divine presence, which I feel it's experienced, then for me there's two backbones of our community. Maybe three. The community itself, the leadership and wisdom, and our financial pledge. It is fundamental and significant. I've been on the board for years, just left the board, and this is so important to keep us going. So if you can pledge whatever you can, that's very important. If it's only $5 or $10 a week or a month, please do that. It's such a blessing to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. So watching Tim give his talk, I was really nervous because I'm like, oh my God, I gotta follow that. And then it was like, Robert's gonna go, but then I have to follow Robert. And he's, if you know Robert, he's just very, so from the board, Al Gaspari, and I just really want to ask everybody, we have two metrics that we track for Faith in Action. The first is just the number of participants. And for those of you who are sitting there, you might be new, you might be not sure about your finances, you might be starting a new business, a new endeavor. Like, this is an indication of your commitment. So, on the form, you can say $10 a month and then put unexpected income. You could do $0 a month and put unexpected income. We're just looking for the commitment for the pledge, and that's why we track that metric and why we want to understand that, because that is that is indication that you've seen the light and that we're doing our job and as a board, and Tim's doing his job and really bringing it home. The second metric that we track is the total amount of budget. So as we come into year end, I know that there's a lot of tax planning and thinking about year end, but that total budget goes into our organization's budget. We're just like PBS. We're not the Catholic Church. We don't get money in from the Vatican. This is all self-contained in our community. The money that goes into this community is used wisely, and it is used directly in this community to both enhance us as the light and also to help other people see the light. So your dollars are really impactful. So I really encourage you, even if you've already pledged, think about, can you do a little bit more? Think about, can you make a pledge at year end to get a little tax benefit this year? You win, church wins. And can you increase, think about how you want to increase for next year. Thank you very much.
So we're going to go ahead and draw a winner for lunch with Reverend Tim based on those people that have already pledged.
Larry and Pam Tolbert.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you. Wow, thanks, Al and Robert. And if our ushers would come forward at this time. as you get your tithes, your offerings ready. It's good to be here. It's good to be here. It's a good place. As we take this, if you wish, place it over your heart. Repeat after me. I bless this offering in the consciousness of divine good, of my abundance, of this amazing community. And I give thanks. And so it is. Amen.
We thought we needed some help with the last song. It's kind of hard. It has the word deck in it. There's a fa and a la and a la la. La. You know your part. That's choir practice.
Not this Tuesday, but
Not next Tuesday.
right. But typically, choir practice is at 7:15 on Tuesday nights. If our ushers would come forward at this time, and we extend our hands to the offering. And I want to thank our love streamers. Thank you for your donations. You can donate online. We appreciate you being a part of this Ohana. So as we extend our hands to this offering, we bless this offering in the consciousness that it represents the infinite substance that is God, that there is never any lack or limitation of any kind, but that this represents abundance to bless ministries of this church, to bless people's lives. We go forth from here to be the light of the world, and we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. Thank you.
So you can see this wonderful choir again on Tuesday night, so hope you will be there with us. You'll see in the slide behind me the Youth of Unity. We have a wonderful team of teachers and some great kids. So if you know anybody, let them know that we've got a vibrant family ministry going on here so that they can be part of it as well. I'd also like to acknowledge the table over here that has so many traditions and includes the pictures of the sun that some of the kids did last week as well. Our sponsors this week are Lee Allen and Lonnie Young and Dana Masick. And our hospitality sponsors are Linda Nelson and Louise Kerr. Thank you, Lee Young, for creating the beautiful flower arrangements today. Holiday food donations are being collected in the entryway, which is also known as the narthex, in the back. They'll be delivered soon, so be sure that you drop anything off, and thank you for everyone who helped out with those donations. Will the Unity and Marin prayer chaplains please stand? Prayer chaplains are available to support you with any joy or challenge. They're committed to praying with you, and they're just really special. If you haven't done that, just have them pray. Don't even tell them what you need, and just ask for a prayer, and it'll be perfect. It's really true. Thank you, prayer chaplains, for the gift of your sacred service. So I also have to take this time to say thank you to our tech team up there, Connect and Olivia and Skylar. When things go smoothly, sometimes we forget about you, but I don't ever forget about you, and I just wanted to make sure you were seen today. We're running low on time. I was going to say a couple little things. I just want to say one short thing. And it's in this holiday season, we've all, as Reverend Tim said in his talk, we've all got our stories, and we've all had something happen. We've all had history with our holidays. Can we be as tender as we are when we're in the presence of somebody who's crying and emotional? Can we be as tender with someone who is angry or upset? Because those are the same emotions they're holding. People are just showing up in different ways. That someone is in pain. So how can we be with them and hear them? And especially during this time, because there's so many lonely people out there, and some even in this room right now. So our kindness is really, this is a time of year for us to be as kind as we can be. So anyway, that's it. So now if you'll please stand together and we'll say our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And if you'll take the hand of the person next to you, we'll sing our peace song out. Happy holidays, everyone.